Sir, do you think that the circumstances that existed pre-partition, that
Hmm.
if Jinnah had to kind of uh, remove 7 crore Muslims, as you quoted, from the clutches of colonization, he needed to
Ji.
have a very strong cult following to do it.
Yeah,
And
of course.
he there was no other way than these populist sloganeering to bring people to a pass where they could come up with a massive uprising against the
Yes.
Congress party and the British.
Yeah, and the success story is the 1945-46 elections, which
Yes.
the Muslim League won by a landslide. Out of 495 reserved seats for Muslims, they won 440 seats.
Yeah.
So, no denying that Jinnah's call that Islam and Muslims will be danger in a united India did work wonders for him. So his populism is the basis for Pakistan coming into being. But then remember, once you use populism, the genie is out of the bottle, and you can't put it back again. And so that genie keeps coming back in one form or another. That's what I'm saying.
Sir, just another question about Jinnah's upbringing as a politician. Since we're zooming into his personality and how
Yeah.
and his later years as a politician, do you think that he was raised in a very undemocratic tradition in the pre-partition India, which is and you could see impressions of that when he ultimately became the governor general, and just like you mentioned, that his the overreach of the governor general's office was very evident at the time. Do you think that his lack of belief or his disbelief in constitutional parliamentary democracy was a result of him being raised in a very undemocratic transition uh, tradition?
Well, many people in Pakistan would argue that Jinnah, by temperament, was a constitutionalist.
Yeah.
And if you look at his record, once he entered politics, he was very famous for making great speeches in the Central Assembly, you know,
Yeah.
and some of the speeches are fascinating. Absolutely. So I would not deny Jinnah Sahab the capability to make very impressive speeches, and which are the in the earlier period very much those of reminding the British that they are ruling India in an undemocratic manner. So
Yes.
that's one phase in Jinnah. But you see, India had been united, there was one administration, and people had moved from one place to another. Things had changed a lot in the last 100 or so years before the Pakistan question came into being. And now, if you wanted to divide India, you had to find all those arguments which said no chance Hindus and Muslims can live together in peace in a united India. So that means you have to overplay the populist card. But the consequences of playing such a card is that once the state came into being, it was overburdened, saddled by all these contradictory views. And Jinnah Sahib dies on the 11th of September 1948. There was a fair chance then to sort out his message, but it was not possible. I've quoted uh, Dr. Yaqub Bangash, one of our eminent historians.
Yeah.
Uh, he says that he talked to Pakistan's former foreign minister, Sahibzada Yaqub Ali Khan, to tell him what does he remember of his time as the military aide to Governor General Muhammad Ali Jinnah. And Sahibzada Yaqub Ali Khan said that he and Sayyid Ehsan, who was the naval head, aide, we both as young people went to Jinnah Sahab one day. It was about 8:30. He was about to retire. And we said, sir, from India, we hear every day news that in the making of the constitution, they are proceeding very fast, and this is going to be part of the constitution. And so a new thing happens every day, it is in the news. why nothing is happening in Pakistan? And Jinnah told him very honestly, look, boys, I have been saying different things to different Muslims. So it will take time before this is sorted out. And I leave it to the Pakistan Constituent Assembly to frame a constitution for Pakistan. So he is himself admitted that because of these populist slogans and promises he had made right, left, and center, once they were going to haunt Pakistan, and they haunt Pakistan even today. So that's what I'm saying. That's not the case with the way the Indian National Congress led the freedom movement, and initially uh, the constitution, the government, elections were institutionalized, and that continues. Although now we find in India, the Hindu Nationalist Party, the BJP, trying to modify that constitution to make India some sort of a Hindu Rashtra. So that's for them to decide. But uh, in Pakistan, this problem was there from day one.
Sir, my next question was about India, so thanks for taking me in that direction.
Yeah,
Thank you for a very elaborate answer, sir. Of course, we've in the recent past we've seen how India's democratic institutions are tearing up with the rise of violence and RSS and Bharatiya Janata Party, and right wing violent populism also uh,
yeah.
uh, taking root in India. Uh, and I've been talking to people about this. 75 years into the formation of both the countries, India had a very secular looking, strengthened democracy, but the same, of course, could not take place in Pakistan. Do you think, and now, of course, Pakistan has entered into a new phase of political instability. Do you think that how democracy shaped up in India and how it shaped up in Pakistan? Do you think the relative shaping up of democracies in the two countries has ideological roots? And somebody sitting in 1947 could predict how India will shape up in the next 50 or 100 years and how Pakistan could shape up in the next 50, 100 years?
I think there was absolutely a gap between the educated elite, uh, or let's say the leadership of the Indian National Congress and even of the Muslim League. Almost all of them had gone to universities and had law degrees or whatever, and had been groomed in sort of parliamentary ways of doing politics, including agitation, the way Mahatma Gandhi kept violence out, but mass action was done to violate the law without, you know, generating violence. So that's a very unique way of doing politics.
Yes.
Uh, but did this percolate deep down among the people? Did they want democracy? Did they want all the freedoms of democratic freedoms? One can only wonder, because society in our part of the world was still very traditional, very much bound by medieval and even ancient ideas of what is right and wrong. Whereas in the West, society and state have in interaction developed together into
Yes.
what we now say are modern uh, democracies. Uh,
The
but in
Western
our
democracy, basically.
Yeah, but in our case, it was the leadership which embraced democratic ideals, definitely in India. And in a way, even Pakistani politicians were, committed to a constitution and to making Pakistan some sort of a parliamentary democracy. In the case of Pakistan, the problem was that such a democracy had to be in consonance with Quran and Sunnah, and that opens the Pandora box. Who is going to tell us what is appropriate democracy consistent with the Quran and Sunnah? And there, I think, inadvertently or by the logic of creating a state for Muslims in the name of religion, the upper hand was given to people who were scholars of Islam, like Maududi. He opposed the creation of Pakistan. It's so ironic. He said that Pakistan जो है ये ना पाकिस्तान है. These are his words. But as soon as Pakistan came into being, and let me underline, Jinnah Sahab invited Maududi to start making lectures on Radio Pakistan about Islam. So, bringing him back into politics, a man who opposed Pakistan, begins with Jinnah's way of defining the Pakistan identity. I'll give you some more examples. For example, he wrote to the head of the Muslim Brotherhood, Ikhwan al Muslimin, uh, Hassan al Banna, that, sir, please send us a Muslim scholar who could guide us how to make Pakistan an ideal Islamic state. Then he established a department in Punjab called the Institute of Islamic Reconstruction, in which Maulana Alama Muhammad Asad was made the head, and Asad was a follower of Iqbal. So such an institute was to uh, advise the government how to make Pakistan an Islamic state, have an Islamic economy, have an Islamic educational system, and so on. So this was the brief given to this institute. Then uh, another example would be that I think on the 21st of January or February 1948, while speaking to the Karachi Bar Association, once again angrily he said, I don't know why people keep asking me what will be the constitution of Pakistan. The constitution of Pakistan was given 1300 years ago. It will be democratic and Islamic and so on. Now, democratic, Islamic, are they, can one combine them and establish a stable order? The experience shows that it's not been a success. Why did we need to have four constitutions? And after the constitutions, one after the other, were superseded, more and more of Islam, fundamentalist type of Islam, has been included, especially during the time of Ziaul Haq. It was later validated by the Pakistan National Assembly. So that's the problem. You know, the blasphemy law and all have been validated by the Pakistan National Assembly. So now, what do you do with this? Once you bring Islam into the Pakistani or in politics, there is no way you can withdraw it without risking your neck. It happened only recently when one of the ministers of Nawaz Sharif, he wanted to change one word in the oath that the Prime Minister and the President of Pakistan take, and he had to run for his life. So all this is happening in a state founded uh, for Muslims to save Islam. And how do you do it? By bringing Islam into your polity and then trying to make a constitution out of it. That has not been very successful. It's neither fish nor fowl. You know, both sorts of things are there in the constitution. Article 19 says, gives you all the fundamental rights you would expect in a modern liberal democracy. But then it also says that everything has to be done for the glory of Islam. That's also in the constitution. Now, I think that's a rider which depends on who's interpreting, and that's the problem.
Sir, thank you for a very detailed answer. We're just rushing out of time now, last 3 minutes, and
Yeah.
usually record for 30 minutes. Sir, my last question to you would be uh, that, looking at the current political impasse in Pakistan, and I'll come back to the question from where we started the show.
Yeah.
Uh, Last time when I interviewed you, you said volatility is built into Pakistan, and I've been quoting this statement to people. I
What
really,
did I say? Say it again.
you said volatility is built into
Volatility.
Pakistan.
Volatility. Yes.
Volatility
Yes.
is
Yes.
built into Pakistan. Yes. So, do you think that this volatility is going to continue, and we would see, more rounds of political instability, or do you think Pakistan is now headed in the right direction, given that it's the third democratic transition which is taking place, and governments, despite a lot of political upheavals, governments are now completing their 5-year terms. Do you see that as a welcome development, and do you see the dust settling down now on political instability in Pakistan?
I would say that the volatility we talked about 2 years ago has turned into an explosive situation.
Yeah.
So, what I then used to describe Pakistan is now in its most explosive stage. And I only hope our political leaders would have the wisdom, the foresight to save Pakistan from this explosion. I want Pakistan to stabilize as a democracy. And that means somebody has to make an effort to weed out those laws, medieval laws, which stand in the way of even Muslims, but more so the minorities in being equal citizens of a state. You know, the way the minorities have been brutally mistreated uh, is all too obvious. You just have to read the reports of the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan. So, this is the last, I think, chance for Pakistan. And I wish the Pakistan government and the leaders all the best. If they really want to make Pakistan a democracy, then all extremism has to be weeded out. You have to have good relations with your neighbors, of course, based on respect for the independence and sovereignty of Pakistan.